What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It's time for yet another tech-related video. Now, of course, the last time I've done this was related to the iPhone 16e and, my overall thoughts on it. This time, we're going to be going a little bit more into the software related of things. Since WWDC, which is Apple's Worldwide Developers Conference, the event that they hold every year, will be happening next month as of recording. And, this is typically more of a dev conference, so mostly upcoming software related shit. Occasionally they will announce, a new hardware product every now and again, but typically it's just, software related because, well, duh, it's a dev conference. So today we're going to be discussing a little bit about the software that is expected to be announced at WWDC next month. Well, more particular talking about iOS 19, since there is something big that could also carry over to other software like, macOS 16, watchOS 12, tvOS 19, the usual software announcements that we see every year at WWDC. But, this time around, we got something pretty fucking special. I wouldn't say it's, necessarily too feature heavy like we normally get every 1 or 2 years with iOS. Sometimes there's an update that has a boatload of new features. Other times it's more of like a stability update. Nothing too big, nothing, all too crazy. Maybe several new features here and there, but it's mostly just a stability update. Like an OS 10 Snow Leopard-like update. We saw this with iOS 9. Not too feature heavy. It mostly focuses on bug fixes, stability, improvements. All the good stuff that most people would still appreciate. iOS 12 was the same thing. It was mostly like a speed improvement, but it still has some handful of features that made it still worth it, like, grouped notifications, group FaceTime. iOS 15, same thing, stability update. But then there's also other updates that are more major, like a new design or a bunch of new features. iOS 7 introduced a new design, the one that we all know and love today, and the one that we still have to this day. Thankfully, that will be changing. We will get into that. In fact, that will be the main topic of this video. Hint, hint, spoiler alert, you already saw the title and the thumbnail. But we've gotten a little bit of a mix between big updates, small updates. Normally it's typically a hit or miss when, a new version of iOS comes out. Sometimes you get a big update with a lot of new features. It ends up getting very, very buggy. People complain. There's a lot of problems with it. Then they follow up with another update that improves and fixes all the issues that we've been having. This one, iOS 19, is going to be one of those stability updates, but at the same time, there's actually going to be one big feature, or rather, one big change that will be coming. And this won't be just on iOS 19. This new big change will also be coming to the new macOS version, the new watchOS, the new tvOS. visionOS already has it, technically. More or less, it's more inspired by it. But it's something that I have a feeling a lot of people are either going to really like, or they're going to fucking despise the shit out of it. And it's something that I've been asking for since literally as early back as iOS 10. And that being just a new design. And to be fair, that's pretty much all I want. I don't care about fancy features and Apple Intelligence, which, by the way, fucking sucks anyway from my experience. Just focus on changing the way iOS looks. Because let's be fair, we've been stuck with the same design since iOS 7, which released back in 2013, alongside the iPhone 5S. So it's been a while. I mean, it's definitely and certainly been a while. I mean, don't get me wrong, iOS 7 and iOS 18, there are some, subtle differences between how the icons look, but it's still the same fucking look. There really hasn't been anything major on iOS in terms of its design. Like back when jailbreaking was a lot more easier and still was popular, one of the reasons why I jailbroke my iPhone was to change how the icons look, using applications like Winterboard and Anemone, and changing the way the icons look and changing the way the UI looks. These were called themes. And that's one of the big reasons why I would jailbreak my iPhone. Or when I was younger, I still used an iPod Touch. but I would always jailbreak them just so I can get themes. And there are also a handful of tweaks that I would use, which thankfully I do have an archive of all of those features that I love having. It's good to see that a lot of those are in iOS already. Apple never usually credits those people. However, I would still assume that a lot of those former jailbreak tweak developers are now working for Apple in their iOS development board. So clearly, these were not accidents. I mean, these jailbreak developers clearly have a portfolio in their resume. Former Minecraft mod developers are working for Mojang, so it's not uncommon for that to happen. But theming the icons on iOS was one of the big reasons to jailbreak, because you look at iOS right now, you look at some of the icons that you have, and yes, again, there's been several changes between iOS 7 and what we have right now with iOS 18. However, we've been stuck with this same exact design for almost 11, 12 years now, and it's already become stale. Like, this is something that we've been used to for all this time. We're due. We are at least 10 years due. At least Android every now and again changes the looks of their icons and their UI. iOS, everything has stayed the same. Now, thankfully, I know this has been reported yearly by people like Mark Gurman, but this time it's for real. We're getting a redesign. Now, I know what you guys might be thinking. Hey, Axiom, you know they say the same shit every year and it never happens, right? Well, yes, I will admit that you are correct on this. We've been hearing talks and reports and speculation about a new iOS design since iOS 11. We then heard that iOS 12 was supposed to be the year, but then Apple decided to focus more on, bug fixes and stability. iOS 13 was rumored to have a redesign. iOS 14 was also rumored to have a redesign, but then, of course, the pandemic happened, COVID, lockdownerism. iOS 17, 1 year anniversary of the redesign. So, does it happen? No, it doesn't. But this time, iOS 19, we should be getting this redesign. And it's not just exclusive on iOS 19. Like I said, we should be getting this same exact redesign on macOS, watchOS, tvOS. All of these Apple operating systems are all going to be having the same exact redesign. Now, the reason why I did not mention visionOS as the one being redesigned is because visionOS is not going to get this redesign. And that's because this new design is going to be heavily inspired by visionOS. It's going to have this translucent glassy design. It's going to be more 3D, depth inspired. Although it's not going to be the old skeuomorphic design. It's almost going to be the icons that we have right now, but more 3D, if you know what I mean. Now, it's not entirely confirmed if the icons itself are going to be completely redesigned. Although I would love for that to happen. But a lot of talks have been back and forth on how they're going to be shaped. Some are saying that it's going to be more like what Android has, with the little squircle shape. Others have them going all in and saying that they're going to be circular icons, like visionOS. Personally, I do want circular icons because I think you really don't have to do much to change the icons. They fit perfectly as circular icons. And besides, iOS with circular icons, the concepts that I've been seeing look fucking good. I would love it if iOS 19 looked like that. I don't know, I just have a fetish of, circular icons in general. Pretty much everyone is all in agreement that iOS 19 is going to look completely different from iOS 18. People can already debate the icons and how they're going to be shaped or how they're going to look, but what's also unanimously confirmed is that iOS 19 is going to not just redesign the icons, but also the entire UI itself, which is also going to be heavily visionOS inspired. Now, if you have no fucking clue what I'm talking about and are not sure what that might look like, there are a few concepts of what that might be. Jon Prosser has a bunch of those already. And Jon Prosser of Front Page Tech is one of those guys who have one of the best track records in terms of leaks and rumors, because normally the teams that make their own concepts, a lot of them get their information supposedly from insiders that are working behind the scenes with iOS and developments of iPhones and whatnot. So they have a pretty good track record in terms of what future devices are going to look like, what future software is going to look like. So Jon Prosser has one of the best track records. He's definitely up there with Mark Gurman. In fact, him and Mark Gurman often conflict with one another in terms of what is and what isn't true. But the concept that Front Page Tech put out best highlights what this new UI design is going to look like. One big example being in the camera app. So take a look at this concept. You see, you got the shutter button on the top, you got your photos on the left-hand side, you got the camera flipping from front to back on the other side on the right. On the bottom, you're going to have like this glossy looking bar right on the bottom where you can switch from photo to video. And if you tap that arrow, you can expand it and you have more options on what you want to do. If you want to have portrait mode, if you want to control the depth, if you want to do spatial video, you want to shoot like a panoramic picture, or you want to do like, slow motion, you can change the filters, you can change the resolution, you can change the frame rate even, as well as the aspect ratio. This moves everything all in one place, and this is even more intuitive as well. So you don't have to go and swipe all the way to do slow motion or an action shot or cinematic mode if you want to shoot any of those modes. And you don't have to go and keep tapping to get the right resolution of what you want to shoot. You can just tap this little menu, it pops up with a bunch of modes and a bunch of resolutions and aspect ratios, and you can select what you want, which is a lot more convenient and easier than what we currently have. I will admit this as someone who is both a photographer and a pro videographer who uses this app on a daily basis. I will be looking forward to this change. But there are other examples that Front Page Tech uses in their concept, like the newly redesigned alert messages that pop up, a newly redesigned keyboard, newly redesigned notifications, newly redesigned navigation bar, which takes the same inspiration from the camera app which we just talked about earlier, new animations. And Jon Prosser's Front Page Tech also uses the Squircle icon shape, which in my opinion, unless they change how the icons look, doesn't look too great. I would much prefer circular icons, but who the fuck knows, they might include that as one of the customization options for the home screen. Did I also forget to mention that you already see elements of this redesign in certain apps? Take, for instance, the sports app. Like in the sports app, if you go and tap on My Leagues or My Teams, depending on what it says or depending on where you are on the app, it pops up with this almost glassy-like UI type of thing, almost visionOS inspired. So it's pretty much more or less like a precursor of what we might be getting in iOS 19 in this new redesign. So it's already being used in some of these apps that Apple has made. So this is pretty much the inside scoop of what iOS 19 will end up looking like. Again, there's a lot of concepts that are already out. Front Page Tech, in my opinion, I think has the best one, only because they get their info from actual insiders. However, again, this is just merely only a concept, and we're not going to know the full details until WWDC this year. There are already multiple concepts out there that pretty much demo what iOS 19 is going to look like. They all basically follow the same rumors that we've been hearing. Some concepts have circular icons, some have squircles, some have new icons entirely. Let me remind you that these are concepts. We're not going to know what it officially looks like unless we get some sort of big leak out of nowhere, but we're not going to know anything until the next coming weeks when WWDC officially happens. So either way, that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about regarding iOS 19. Yes, the design is not the only thing that should be coming. There should be more Apple Intelligence features that we should be expecting. But again, who really cares about that? Apple Intelligence has been pretty bad, and through my experience, it kind of sucks anyway. So as of recording, we only got a few weeks away to see what Apple has in store with their new operating systems. And I also really want to see what you guys think about iOS 19 and all the current rumors that we've been seeing. Do you like the new design changes? Are you looking forward to the new design? Do you think you're going to hate it? What else do you expect? What's on your personal wish list for iOS 19 besides Apple Intelligence? If you're one of the minority who enjoys using Apple Intelligence. Again, at the end of every video, I love to pass the conversation right down to you, as I always do. I know I will be working on a what to expect video the day before WWDC, so... And as always, with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to hit that like button down below. And if you're new around here, make sure to subscribe to the channel and ring the little notification bell. Don't forget to follow me on all my social medias. Links are in the description down below, especially to my X, formerly known as Twitter. I post memes, thoughts, updates, opinions, and everything else there. Best way to interact with me and, get some news, tips, and video ideas that you might want me to talk about in the future. Share this video around with your friends, families, boyfriends, girlfriends, enemies, whomever. Definitely helps me out a lot, helps the video grow, and helps grow the channel if you were to share this video with whomever you know. Again, be on the lookout for that what to expect in iOS 19 video the day before WWDC. I'll go a little bit more in depth into what to expect and touch up on the other operating systems as well. I'll also be doing that in that video. Make sure you are subscribed. It's exactly the reason why you should, so that way you don't miss a video once it comes out. So either way, guys, like, subscribe, ring notifications, and until then, I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care, talk soon, you're awesome.